Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the TCPalm editorial board meeting to interview candidates for the St. Lucie County Clerk of Court. I'm columnist Gil Smart. I'm joined today by fellow editorial board members Larry Reisman, columnist and community editor, and Adam Neal, editor and news director. I'm going to lead today's questioning. We're going to open up to other board members at the end if they have any questions. Kelly Rogers is working behind the scenes to direct video coverage. If we get any questions from our social media audience, we might pose one or two of those at the end of the session. I want to thank our candidates, Joseph Smith Jr. and Michelle Miller, for streamlining this process by completing their questionnaires ahead of time. Board members have taken a look at those, and you can do the same. They can be found at tcpalm.com/elections, along with other stories, videos, and information about the upcoming November 3rd election. At the conclusion today, editorial board members will discuss possibly writing an editorial to recommend a candidate in this race. We've got several questions. We might end up having more of a simple conversation than just a Q&A. The goal here is to be completed in 45 minutes to an hour. Because of the time constraints, I'm going to ask our candidates to please keep their answers concise and be respectful of one another. We typically start the questioning with the incumbent, so we're going to start with Mr. Smith. But what I want you guys to do here initially is just to give us the Reader's Digest condensed, introduce yourself, rather. Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're seeking office, in your case, Joe, for the fourth time.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to speak to you today. I really appreciate what you do as journalists, and thank you so much for giving a voice to the public square on these types of important issues. I'm Joe Smith, your clerk of the circuit court. I've served you now for the last 12 years as your clerk. 4 years before that, I served as a county commissioner of St. Lucie County. So 16 years as your elected official in government. And the reason I'm running for re-election is because I have what it takes to continue to do the great things that we're doing at the clerk's office. As you know, nothing happens with one person alone, but I lead an amazing team of professionals who have worked really hard these last 12 years to take our office from where it was in 2008 when I took over to now, where we are looked at throughout the state and in some areas throughout the nation as a leader in technology, as a leader in customer service and relationships in our community. And I'd ask that you support my re-election campaign because, if nothing else, that over the last 12 years as your clerk, I've helped to earn you more than $56 million in dollars and cents on behalf of the taxpayers. And on top of that, we've reduced the budget for the St. Lucie Clerk's office by more than 34% since I took office. So those are just a small amount of things that our office has done over 12 years. If I took the whole time, I could be here for a little while, so I don't want to be too verbose today, but I just want to say that we've done a great job as a team. We are a best places to work organization. We're celebrating our 10th year of consecutive winnings of that. So we just hope that the voters will decide that what I'm doing as their clerk is good and sufficient and doing great work, and I'd hope they'd be willing to support me yet again as I run for re-election.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Joe. Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the folks at home and why you're running for office.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am Michelle Miller. I'm running for Clerk of Court. I would like to thank you for hosting this forum. And I would like to take just a moment because in the last forum, my opponent claimed that I was attacking him. I'm a veteran and I know what it's like to be attacked. It's not an attack to address concerns regarding my opponent's past performance that cast doubt on his ability to make sound decisions for our county and our community. When I brought up a lack of integrity and trustworthiness, it was merely to highlight the stark differences between us. This paper has even reported on his lack of integrity, such as wasting $500,000 on outside legal counsel, having the taxpayers pay for the wedding, pulling a political stunt that closed the primary and disenfranchised over 100,000 voters. As a community, that's not acceptable. This is an attack of character and his integrity. It's a statement of fact. And we can do better. We must do better. I would be honored to have your vote to serve with honor and integrity. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a veteran, and I have served this community since my return from the military. I grew up here, and I know our community. I love our community, and I think it's really important that we have someone who is willing to go to the office every single day with the community's best interest at heart, and move this organization forward. Thank you.
Joe, do you want to respond to that?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with the next question then. This goes to Michelle. Mr. Smith has touted the financial accomplishments of his office, including the fact, as he said a little bit ago, his budget today is lower than it was 12 years ago. But you say the office's financial performance can be improved. How so?
Well, let's take, for instance, I have some county reports right here. And the county reports show that in March, a couple of days after we had a huge market decrease, the investment summary here shows that in March, we had $306 million of total investments. And in June, when we were up 20%, our total investments are still down $200 to $280 million. That's a huge deficit. We need to start looking at how we're investing our money, keeping in mind that the county has an investment policy, which I'm fully aware of. Statute has guidelines that we need to ensure that we're following. That's not the issue, but we need to do better than what we have been, because right now at 1.3%, that's not even keeping up with the cost of inflation. And we need to do better. We need to look at each investment. We need to find out where those dollars actually are and how we can move them and make them do better. When I'm clerk, I intend to look at those on a regular basis so that when markets fluctuate, we have safety and security in our investments and we're not losing money like what we have just recently.
Gil, if someone's saying something, I can't hear anyone.
I muted myself. I apologize for that. That's my fault.
Okay, very good.
So you just heard what Ms. Miller had to say. What is the office's strategy for managing its investments? You've touted your office's performance. Could you be doing more?
Yeah. Right.
Go ahead.
I think that sure. First things first. Can you be doing more? I think we're always looking to do better every time we turn around. But let me tell you what some of the facts are. The clerk's office has not lost any money. In fact, whatever Ms. Miller is referring, I think that's the challenge of being the incumbent versus being the opponent. When you're the incumbent, you can only deal with facts. You can't deal with half-truths, and you can't deal with suppositions. You can only deal with facts. So I'd be happy to talk to Ms. Miller about what her numbers are that she's presenting. But what I can tell you is that when the market began that tank in March, the first thing I did was go to the Board of County Commissioners and let them know, hey, we did not lose one penny. Fact, we didn't lose one penny. In fact, one of the benefits of having an investment committee, which is based out of members of this community, who we sit down and talk to them quite often about these types of issues. And the market was doing ups and downs. You saw that in your own portfolios if you have them. What the county has been able to do is we're able to stabilize our funding so that we do take some risk with some of our investments, but you wouldn't want me to put all of your money on black like you're at the roulette table and just hope that let it ride and see how things go out. So we base our money in federal assets. So we have agencies, we have treasuries, and as you know, treasuries weren't doing very well, but it was a flight to safety. So we put money where it was going to be protected. We did have some money in the market, and that money we didn't lose because it all balances out. And so being able to have a diversified portfolio is a little different than being able to just run out like you're taking the county's money to the Bellagio in Vegas on a weekend bender. That's not what this is. So what we do at the clerk's office is we have prudent financial management. And in that prudency, we focus on safety, liquidity, and return on investment. So the most important issue I can say to you is that if it's sort of like the biblical proposition, if the county gives me a talent and I show up with a talent, I, according to the law, have done my job. If the county gives me a talent and I grow it to 5, 10, 56 million talents, which is what we've done since I became your clerk, I've done a really good job. So I think the point is that what we're doing right now as a guardian, as a watchdog of your finances, is that we're making sure that you're doing much better today than you were 12 years ago, but we're not going to go wild and and start doing crazy investments and hope that the county strikes it rich.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Joe, this next question goes to you first.
You're
COVID-19
welcome.
has obviously had an impact on how your office serves the public. There have been no trials since March, and as I understand it, a whole sort of raft of services have kind of had to be shifted online. Have you managed to roll with these punches? Have you made it easy? You know, how easy have you made it for the public in terms of the services that the public requires from your office? And what else can you do along those lines?
Well, I think that the good news is that we're moving back to the in-person experience here on October 5th. As you know, we're going to start having one-day trials in St. Lucie County again that require a jury to come in. So in coordination and in partnership with our judicial partners, the clerk's office is going to start opening back up to the public in the same way. So when you come in, you got to get your safety check. You got to wear a mask. These are CDC mandated guidelines that we really want to help to stop the spread and reduce the risk for the people who are going to be a little nervous coming into a government building for the first time in months in some cases. Our office never really closed. We closed a little bit, but we actually moved our services more online. So you can now actually get a marriage license online. That never happened before. And that's just one of those things that the state didn't allow us to do it before. So we're really excited to have those types of new opportunities. One of the other things that we're doing is we have kiosks. So the interactions with the public are going to be reduced, unfortunately. We love welcoming the public into our building, but we know that their safety and the safety of our professionals are of utmost importance. So we found additional ways to help. One of the things that we started to do is that we just sometimes pick up the phone and help people the old-fashioned way. So it's not always about technology. It's about how do you deliver services to the public as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And I believe, I mean, I'm not going to give myself an A on everything. I do believe in a curve, but I'd say that we've done as best as we could in the situation that we've had. And I think that definitely for what we've been able to accomplish in the circuit, we're a leader.
Okay. So give yourself a grade. What grade would you give yourself on this?
Well, it's sort of like when you're in a job interview and they say, like, tell me what's your biggest weakness, and someone says they try too hard. So I'm not going to give myself an A. I think we're definitely a solid B plus, moving towards an A minus.
Okay, very good. Michelle, throw the question to you. Why don't you give his office a grade?
I would say a C. And I would like to respond to some of those things because, when I look at the safety measures that are in place to ensure that the employees are well protected, I don't really see a reason why the clerk's office hasn't been open. The frustration, I have an email sitting right here and it says the general public is becoming increasingly upset with the lack of service being provided by the clerk of court. And they're expressing their disgust in St. Lucie West. Their disgust with the lack of services in St. Lucie West and Fort Pierce. Limited days of operation, times of operation, lack of answering the phone, and failure to update online court information is really upsetting people. I have another one that says I had to go back and forth from the clerk's office to the courthouse 4 times today because the information that I was looking for was not given to me. So when you're looking at a B plus to an A minus, I'd say that's definitely a curve, not the true measure. I think that COVID has definitely changed the way that we do business. While online services are good, I do believe that there's nothing that replaces that in-person personal touch that a clerk can give to the public as they come in for services. And it needs to have that communication piece that's going to say, hey, I'm here for you. This is all of the information that you need. When you do this, you have to do this as well. So that when people leave or they walk out of that office, they have a complete picture of what's expected of them, what they need to do to complete their business. That hasn't been done. That needs to change.
Okay. Michelle, I'm sorry, Joe, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, do you don't mind? I think that what my opponent is talking about is important, and I want to make sure that it's shared so everyone hears the facts. When my opponent says, it is not, and I mean this with all sincerity, it is not the clerk's job to give legal advice to our customers. In fact, it would be illegal if I did, or if our deputy clerks did. So sometimes we navigate. But we cannot guide them to each step of the way, because then we would be performing in the practice of law, which, as you all very much know, is illegal. And I understand that my opponent sometimes feels that she doesn't get the information that she believes she should be receiving when she's running for office against me. The fact remains is that what I find really interesting is that all of a sudden, out of the last few weeks, I'm hearing she's getting emails, she's talking to people, she's getting phone calls, which is funny because we're not getting those emails, we're not hearing from those people, and we're not getting those phone calls. And I think that says something about what my opponent is doing in this race when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I don't work at Walgreens, but I think it would be really weird if someone came up to me and started asking me about prescriptions, don't you? And I think the point of this is that we need to focus on what the issues are in the clerk's office. And every time I talk to you again, I give you facts. But what my opponent continues to do is say, I hear from people, I get emails from people. Who, Michelle? Let's hear who they are. Let's talk about it. Because one of the things that I would do if I were in your situation right now is, if you're interested in helping the public, tell us who these people are so we can help them. Don't try to use it as a political cudgel.
Okay, can I respond to that, Gil?
Sure.
Thank you, Gil.
Because last week, a judge tried several times to reach your office and was unsuccessful. This is a judge who is in court and unsuccessful at reaching you. Now, let's continue on, because I am not talking about giving legal advice, but what I am is my turn. What I am doing, what I am telling you is that when someone comes in and says, I need to have a quitclaim deed, and somebody goes back and forth 3 times because evidently the information is not there on where to get the quitclaim deed, how to file it, what they have to do, or how about if they need to pull a permit and they aren't told about the notice of commencement steps that they have to do as well, and they just wait and wait and wait, as happened this weekend. So there's all kinds of things that I could continue telling you, but where do we start? Where do we end? We need to make a systematic change in how the clerk's office runs. And that takes a leader who is present in the office to do that.
Okay. All right. Michelle, let's get back to the questions here and sort of very specific things. One thing that you brought up in your questionnaire that you filled out for us, you say, quote, over the last 12 years, there's been a dramatic decline in the relationships that were once very strong and cooperative with the clerk's office. Give us an example of that.
The judiciary has expressed that they would like to have someone who would listen to them, answer their questions, work with them on problems that come up. Trying to, and like I've been told, it is just things that are told to me. So I have not been there in the room when these things happen. But when the judiciary is telling you, hey, I'd like to have a little bit of a conversation with the clerk of court so that I can make sure that we have X, Y, and Z, such as, I don't want my clerks taken out of the courtroom, or, I don't want this to happen in the courtroom. I would like to have certain things happen while I'm there. Those are kind of important conversations that need to happen. And when Joanne Holman was there, that was an open door policy between the judges and the clerk's office, and there was always a good working relationship. That hasn't happened.
Okay.
That's
Joe,
an example.
Okay. All right. Joe, you want to answer that? And I just, at this point, a lot of this, I guess, maybe falls into the category of hearsay, but what is your relationship with the judiciary? I mean, how do you communicate with them?
Thank you for the question, Gil. From the Florida Supreme Court justices all the way to our county judges and everyone in between, I have a wonderful working relationship with our judges. And here's a point for you to think of. We have many attorneys in our community, and I'm married to an attorney, and we have many judges in our community. When have you ever known an attorney or a judge to not share their opinion when they thought that something was going on? And yet, again, they're speaking to Michelle Miller about this issue, and they're not talking to me. My door has always been open, continues to be open, and this is a phone, and this phone is with me wherever I am. If I'm in the office, the phone is with me. If I'm out volunteering in the community, my phone is with me. There have been plenty of judges, and I can give you names who have called me with a question or a concern, and we sit down and we talk about it. But I've had more judges call and say, man, your clerks are spot on. They're amazing. They do professional work, and we're really excited that to be able to work with them. I love them. But let this last point resonate with the public. My opponent brought up a previous clerk, and I wish Ms. Holman well, but here's the point. I'm elected to serve the people of St. Lucie County. I am not elected to serve the judges. So the judges do not get to direct or dictate how I serve the public of St. Lucie County. They're in charge of their courtroom. I am in charge of the clerk's office. And one of the changes that has happened is I've made sure that judges and our court administration partners are aware that when it comes to the clerk's office and when it comes to where our clerks go, and she brought that point up, so let me go ahead and hit the ball she threw across my plate. The fact is that the reason we can reduce our budget by 34% in the last 12 years is because we cross-trained. So we actually have any judge can get any clerk at any time, and that reduces the cost to the taxpayers. And so we're really proud of that fact. And yes, it did involve us working with our judges a little bit. Everyone wants their own, and you understand that. I get it. I like my car settings when I hop in. But one of the things is that with judges, we showed them how we'd be able to serve them better and more efficiently by being able to change out our clerks. And for the most part, they're actually quite receptive, and I appreciate their support on that.
Okay. Joe, let's stick with you for this next question. Obviously, this race is one of continuity versus change. Your opponent has made being a quote unquote career politician an issue here. You've sort of defended that, couched it in different terms. Tell me why you think, and I'll use the term career politician, and maybe you won't, but
Sure.
Tell me why you think that's an okay thing.
Well, my opponent chooses to use career politician as a slander. I believe it means that I'm committed. I'm a committed politician. And I think that the point is that for 12 years, I have put myself in front of the voters. I have put myself in front of this honorable editorial board. And sometimes we get along and sometimes we don't. But, you know, a free press is the fourth estate and it's the background of our government. And I appreciate what you do. I don't know if you all knew this, but my first undergrad degree was I was going to go and become a radio TV person. So I would be a journalist with you if I didn't decide to go into political science and communication instead. So I appreciate you. What the clerk is and what it means for the people of St. Lucie County is that I'm consistent. I've been there. And I think in 2008, when I did not get of the newspaper at that time, one of the things they said is like, oh, you know, he's a rising star, he's moving different places, and he's gonna, you know, he won't be around, and so it'd be better if we stayed with someone who was consistent. So 12 years later, I'm still here, and oddly enough, it's not me whose name is always bandied about as, oh, this person may run for this or this person may run for state house. It is my opponent, Miss Miller. And so I think the idea of career politician is, in this particular instance, is that my opponent is a career candidate. And the difference is me, they've seen the good, and they've decided that I am worthy of their trust, I'm worthy of their support, and I'm grateful for their support, and I hope they continue in this election. I look forward to continuing to serve.
Okay, Michelle, let me throw that question to you. Why is, you use the term career politician, I'll use the term continuity. Why is continuity bad?
Career politician is more suited here. When you look at my opponent, he was a county commissioner, and then he moved to the clerk's office. That's all he's really ever done. I mean, he's always been in government. He hasn't had to make real decisions in the real world with his own budget. He's had to deal with county taxpayer dollars and having that safety net there. You know, when you're in the real world and you have real world experience, it allows you to bring fresh eyes and fresh ideas into this office. You know, when I first decided to run for this office, and just to clarify, yes, I did run against Larry Lee in 2012. And yes, we had actually a good race until the Republican Party of Florida jumped in and kind of muddied the waters a lot. But you know, that's not a career politician or a career candidate, as my opponent has said. I think it's important that this office, in order to move forward, needs to have someone who can think outside of the box with fresh ideas, a fresh set of eyes, And that way we increase efficiency. We can evaluate some of the practices that are being done and see where we can save taxpayer dollars and where we can ease the tax burden on every single one of our citizens. I don't think it's right to have the same person in office year after year after year, because it stagnates, as you can see, because that's exactly what's happened.
Okay. Michelle, let's stick with you. This question has, it's going to ask you to answer about yourself rather than your opponent. And it's a question we ask a lot of candidates on the issue of ethics, personal ethics. I want to get into this issue. Tell us about a time that you personally had to make an ethically complicated decision, a situation where you needed to make the right decision morally. What happened and what did you decide?
I'm not really sure how to even answer that question. I like to think that every time I make a decision, I'm, using good moral judgment, and I consider that, if I'm going to do something, that it's going to be acceptable to my family and my friends who are around me, so that it, because everything comes to light. So it's not like you can do something hidden and then, keep it a secret, because everything comes to light. We live in a small community. So I like to think that, whenever I make a decision, it's a good, solid decision based on what's best for me, my family, whoever, we're dealing with at the time. So I don't really have a specific example to give you.
Okay. Joe, how about you?
I can give you an ethical decision, and so my opponent talks about what I commit to this job. And so let me tell you what I commit to this job, Michelle. About 2 years ago, my father was in the hospital, and he had surgery in the morning, and he came through surgery pretty well. And in the afternoon of that day, I had a clerk engagement I had to attend. And so after that afternoon, I was, him and hawing a little bit about, like, I should probably stay with Dad. It's like, it's okay. Like, he'll be fine. And I said, Dad, I got to go do work. I got to go to work. And he said, well, Joe, you got to go to work. I got it. I understand. That was the last time I saw him, because I went to work for the people of St. Lucie County. And I'm not worried about him. I know where he is. He's fine. The point is that I love this job. I do this job really well. It wasn't a hard decision for him or me. He was an immigrant, and I'm the son of an immigrant. And so what my opponent refers to as career politician, it's not a story that I wanted to be president when I was 10 years old. I was 10 when I decided I wanted to commit myself to public service. And that is what I am doing. And whether my opponent wants to call that a career politician and call that a negative, I call it clarity. At 10, I saved my parents a lot of money on those degrees because I didn't have to change my choice. And so each day that I go to work, I think about him, and I think about the people who know him and who loved him. And I think about my family now, that in one generation, my grandmother, who immigrated to St. Lucie County in 1914, her grandson is the clerk. The world has changed so much. And as part of that, I myself have done so much to do my very best to be ethically stable. And here's another irony of my opponent saying that I don't have a job or I've never done anything important. Before I became the clerk or county commissioner or worked at the school district, I worked for the Domestic and Foreign Missionary Society. And you all don't know that name of it, but what you do know is the Episcopal Church. I worked in their government relations office. And as a government relations officer and public policy network coordinator, exactly what it was, I traveled across the country talking to people of faith about why it's important that faith and politics be intertwined, why we should help to feed the needy, why we should clothe the naked, why we should help those and strive for justice and peace among all people on this earth. So when my opponent says I didn't have a real job, I respectfully disagree with her. My job was literally working for a missionary society whose focus and only job was to try to bring about a more just, verdant, and equitable world. So I think that, and to this day, I tell people all the time, that was the best job I ever had, because I never went to bed wondering if I did the right thing. And so some of the things we focused on is we focused on debt relief for sub-Saharan Africa. We focused on protecting the Gwich'in Native Americans who live in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. We worked with Bono on Jubilee debt relief. We worked with temporary assistance for needy families. So that was my job, and I loved every second of it. But I chose to leave that job to come home to do what the public at the time said: go off, get your degree. There was no IRSC at that time. Go off, get your degree, come back, make a difference in this community. And that is what I have chosen to do. That is what I will continue to do if the voters decide that that is what their will is. But I respectfully would ask that my opponent leave the whole comment about like, oh, Joe Smith is never in the office, because I know what being in the office is all about.
Okay. Well, why don't you address that? I mean, that is something that has come up a couple times repeatedly. She says you're not in the office. The response, what's your response to that?
My response to that is ask my children where I am. I think, the irony is that she says, she even admits it's secondhand, she's heard. And guess what? The people who tell her those things are probably not people who are supportive of Joe Smith. And then think of this too, Gil. If that is what they're saying, and if they're saying that Joe Smith is never in the office, and the clerk's office is first in the state for felony collections rates, second in the state for misdemeanor collections rates, we win awards year after year after year for the way that we treat people. Our customer satisfaction rating in the clerk's office, 97.5%. That is ridiculous, actually, that she says I'm not in the office, and she can't even verify herself. But you know what? I know, and the people who are around me know that I'm in the office working hard for them. And every 4 years, it's a trope. It comes up like, oh, we can't beat up on Joe Smith because his office is performing really well, so we'll just say he's absent. And guess what? I've also seen some other commercials on TV in the last few days, and I realized that this is just a general theme that the party, her party, not mine, is trying to put out there, that, oh, all of these people are absent-minded, they aren't around, they don't do anything. But you know better, and so does the public. And I hope they send her a resounding message of whether Joe Smith is in the office or not this November.
Okay. Michelle, why don't you address that? I mean, that is something, a theme that you've hammered on several times. Where does this information come from? What's the deal?
Sure. So people that I work with in the law enforcement community, they have requested meeting after meeting and not been able to get those types of meetings, or they're scheduled and then they're postponed for months on end. There are several instances where telephone calls, just go unanswered, which brings me to another point. If you're so responsive to the public, why did a letter go to the governor's office from a local attorney because he's been trying to reach you time and time again?
I don't know.
And not only that, but you talk about your customer service rating, and your customer service rating used to be 99%. Now it's dropped to 97%. And how many of those people are actually filling out the questionnaire? Because I know most people who are irritated are just walking away and they're not filling it out. Well, the point is this: when people need something from the clerk's office, they are going to Kara, not you, because they know Kara's there and they know that she is taking care of the things that you should be taking care of. So that's basically where we stand at this point. And also, one other thing, Gil, because we just keep going back to the fact that he hasn't had a real job. Well, I'm sorry, but serving as a missionary, it's great public service. It's like volunteerism. I love my community and I volunteer all the time, but that's not a real job. So I would say that, when you have a real job and when you are able to start your own business or take a business and move it to the next level, then, that's what I would consider a real job.
All right.
Well, thank goodness it's not up to you, Michelle. Thank goodness it's a voter's decision.
That's true.
It is the voter's decision. I've got one more question for you all, and then I'm going to open it up to our editorial board members. Whose turn is it? I forget whose turn it is at this point. Michelle, I'll throw it to you. What is the biggest challenge facing the office in the coming years? Why are you better equipped to meet that challenge?
I feel like the budget is the biggest challenge. We are looking at doing more with less, and that's why it takes fresh eyes, someone coming in, someone who has run a business and knows how to meet that budget, and someone who has the ability to look at the clerk's office with a new, fresh idea, line by line, and go through it and see where we can cut different items from the budget and return more money back to the county to increase that bottom line. And we've had 12 years and 1.3% annual return. Sorry, but we got to do better than that.
Joe, what's the biggest issue coming up for you for the office? Why are you the better person to meet that challenge? Did you hear that? Did you hear me, Joe?
I did. I just lost you. I'm sorry. What just happened?
I said no. I don't. Just a glitch, I guess. I said, what's the biggest challenge coming up for the office? Why are you the better person to meet it?
Oh, I think because experience matters. First things first, let me say to my opponent, again, she wants to talk down to me about the choices I've had in my career. Well, here, let me give you a real job. Clerk of the Circuit Court of St. Lucie County. And I've done that job for the last 12 years, and I've grown in the job. And I think the editorial board would agree with me that I've grown in the job and I've become much better at it each year that I do it. I think that the clerk's office is such a complex organization, nearly 1,000 different functions on behalf of the people of St. Lucie County and the people of the state of Florida. And all the different ways that I have shown that I am a leader. I'm a former president of our state association of clerks. I'm a former vice chair of the Florida e-courts e-filing authority, which helped to set up the e-filing portal that all attorneys use here in the state of Florida. The office receives countless awards for technology and innovation. And my opponent keeps talking about 1.8 million, I couldn't hear the exact number that she mentioned, but again, new revenue from the clerk of the circuit court, 1.8 million in the last 9 years. And what that means to the public is that we could actually fund the entire finance operations of the clerk's office just from the money that we have brought in, new revenue, not bothering the taxpayers at all. The budget is 34% lower today than it was 12 years ago. By comparison, the county's budget is 6% lower today than it was 12 years ago. And I know my opponent said at one point, like, oh yeah, sure, Joe Smith makes money on credit cards, but it's so onerous, and it's not even worth it. So my opponent is saying it's not worth the $1.8 million to the taxpayers that I even do the job we do, which, by the way, because of cross-training, we've been able to delve and roll that into our services. So we work really hard to build a great culture at the office, to focus on customer service and financial accountability. And I look forward to continuing to serve the public if that is their will.
Okay. I'm going to ask if our editorial board members, Adam Neal, Larry Reisman, have any questions here. Anything, guys?
I have one question. I guess we'll go with Joe first. What would the impact be of Amendment 2, the $15 minimum wage constitutional amendment proposal that's on the ballot in November? How would that affect the clerk's office?
Lawrence, I'm sorry. Good to see you. I totally missed that whole question. I apologize.
If you can hear me, Larry asked Amendment 2, which is on the ballot in November, $15 minimum wage. How would that affect the clerk's office?
Well, it would affect our bottom line. We've worked really hard over the last few years to take a look at our budget and to make sure we pay our people accordingly. Some good news here is that we actually just went out for a survey study, and we realized that we're actually on par with our colleagues of mid-size clerks organizations throughout the state. So if we had to go from where we are right now, which is about $11 an hour, up to 15, that would be quite a punch. And I think the challenge for us would be is to making sure that our professionals understand that we provide them really generous benefits, and we work really hard at doing that. So right now they may not be making $15 an hour but we are definitely doing our very best to take care of them. And that's one of the reasons that we keep earning best places to work.
Thank you.
You're
Michelle?
welcome.
So I have mixed emotions about this. I think that when you look at the employees, I was at a fair before COVID started, and somebody came up to me and he said, I wanted to go work at the clerk's office, but he wanted to start me at $11 an hour. I just can't afford to go and work there because I can't have my family suffer because of $11 an hour. I have a bachelor's degree. I want to make this a career, and looking at it from that perspective, there has to be a way of working the budget where people who have the mentality of, I want a career in the clerk's office, I want to do X, Y, and Z in the clerk's office, instead of just a stepping stone into something else. There has to be a way of increasing that bottom line, that overall budget, so that we can have quality individuals that have the degrees and want those types of careers. The interesting thing about what my opponent has said is that he keeps touting that it's 34% lower than when he took office, and that's a reduction in personnel. That's not a reduction in cost savings. He just got rid of a bunch of people. I think that there's additional ways that we can increase efficiencies by adding technologies and increasing the way that we take in fees and court costs and so on and so forth. Not just felonies. I'm talking about all the other things as well, so that we can increase the bottom line for the clerk's office. And instead of spending money like my opponent has done in the past, the millions of dollars that have just been wasted, those are dollars that should have gone towards employees or towards technology to help the office move forward. So I think that there is a lot that we can be doing that we have not been doing. And once again, that's why I'm such a big proponent of term limits. I think it takes people coming in with fresh eyes to be able to address topics like this.
Okay.
Thanks,
Good.
Michelle.
Hey, Gil, I'm sorry.
Anything else? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, let's go ahead and call the spade a spade here. I find it interesting that my opponent wants to talk about term limits so much when she works for our sheriff, Kim Mascara, amazing guy. I support him. Here's the deal. Kim Mascara has been in office longer than I have. So I wonder, is Michelle ready for Kim Mascara to leave? Michelle talks about Franny Hutchinson, a wonderful lady. I love her dearly. She's been around in government longer than I have. And I think that both of them would tell you that their eyes are pretty fresh. I'm 43. My eyes are quite fresh. I'm not 96. So I think the point is that we continue to look and evaluate and evolve as an organization each and every day. And sheriff, and the same is also true for Commissioner Hutchinson, among anyone else who actually is in our community who has chosen to serve the public.
Okay. All right. I want to see if Adam or Larry has any more questions here.
No more questions, but I would just defer to Michelle on Joe's comment there. Michelle, would you support term limits for all the constitutional officers, or is it just this
No,
position?
I would support constitutional officers and every elected person being in office for 8 years, and that's it. Let me give you an example. So up until I announced that I was running a year ago, nothing was really being done in the clerk's office as far as technology or anything else. I announced, and I'm like, why haven't we used e-signature? Because it's been available since 2008, and yet we're not using it. It's simple, and it would make things a lot easier. Well, now, beginning of this year, we decided, oh yeah, we're going to start using e-signature for a lot of the functions that we have. And then I asked, why are we continuing to mail out all of this information to the same attorney, 9 different letters. She sent me a picture of this, 9 different letters on the same defendant going to the same attorney. That's crazy. Email them. And so now we're doing that as well. And that's my point, If you have somebody who can look at the organization with fresh ideas and walk in and say, hey, this is a way that we can have savings to our taxpayers. Why aren't we doing it? And here's another good example. Why aren't we text messaging people who have court dates coming up? Right now, if your family member has a court date and they forget, they're working or whatever the case may be, there's a bench warrant issued for their arrest and a failure to appear, and then they sit in jail with no bond just because they forgot. So your family member is just sitting there. A simple text message that goes out would remind them about this. And it means that we could cut down on the amount of money that we're paying to house that person in jail. I know that this has been done in other areas. As a matter of fact, in one article that I read, they stated that the number of bench warrants have dropped by 25%, and they saw a 35% decrease in defendants failing to appear. The county estimated that their missed court appearances alone were costing roughly $1.4 million per year. That's a huge number. So if we can start to think outside of the box, and here's another thing. Why don't we have judges have an iPad so that they can take notes? The clerk can take notes, hand it to the judge. It can be reviewed right then, signed off, then uploaded into the system. It's an instantaneous access, so that there's no delays. Your attorneys are happier, your jail is happier, because what's going on is instantaneous. So the jail knows exactly what to do with that person. The attorney knows exactly what to tell that person. And we don't have these delays. We need to decrease the length of time for filings. It takes 3 days. So you have an attorney standing in front of a judge with no statutory waiting period for that filing. And because it hasn't been 3 days, oh, I'm sorry, we can't deal with this right now, even though you're standing right in front of me, because the clerk's office has this 3-day period that has to have all the paperwork go through. That's just not effective. And I think that we can make improvements like that. We need to have a time and motion study done to evaluate productivity and evaluate and analyze the space needs study that the county did to see where we can also make improvements there. But this comes from private sector experience. And when you have that kind of experience, you can implement the things that you know and into the situation that you're going into. So when I'm clerk, those are the kind of things that I would like to change.
Well, and Michelle, you might be able to change it, but it's going to take a statute change. The 3-day is a statutory concept construed by the Florida Supreme Court and the state legislature. It's a 3-day, and just so you know, we have facts on this as well. It doesn't take 3 days in St. Lucie County. 3 days is a statutory mandate. We actually do it within 12 hours to 26 hours. So these are the things, and those are, again, facts that can be backed up. My opponent talked about, random moment sampling. We do that right now. You're talking about using iPads in the courtroom and you just hand it to a judge. So so what I hear you saying is we're going to give the judge the same thing you're going to play Minecraft on and let him determine whether someone's going to go to prison or not for the next 50 years. I mean, it sounds good and you're entitled to your own opinions, but you are not entitled to your own facts. And so what we've done in our offices, we've always looked and worked with our sheriff's office. We've worked with our judicial partners. And she says, why can't we just do these things with the judges? Well, the judges control their courtroom. Again, judges control courtroom, clerks control clerk's office. And so we work with some judges and we have some great relationships with all of our judges, but some particular who are more tech savvy than others. And we work with them on these new ideas. And just so you know, I mean, you'll take credit for it, but we actually have text notification right now for payments from our office. It takes a clerk's organization a while to come up and look at the best technology that's safe for the public, safe for the citizens, before we just roll it out. So I'm sorry that we don't do things on your timeline, but we do them to the best of our ability.
Okay. We are beginning to run short of time here. We're up against our limit, so I'm going to offer each candidate an opportunity for a closing statement here, and we'll start with the challenger, Michelle.
Well, I am not a career politician. I do thank you for hosting this forum, and I appreciate the time and effort that has been put into coordinating all of the forums to educate the public. The clerk's position is a position that answers only to the voters. It's the checks and balances of the county, and this office should be one that's run with transparency and accountability. It's a position of building relationships, ethical oversight, and public trust. It must operate efficiently with its eye on the bottom line. I'm a team builder, and I garner support from the county, the state, all over, everywhere I go, support from Democrats, independents, and Republicans alike, because I feel that this position, like life itself, is not about party, but it's about people. And when it comes to people, I can rebuild relationships that have been neglected and destroyed. And I feel like that is key to moving this organization forward in the next 4 years. I'm a mom, I'm a veteran, I'm a businesswoman, and I'm running because we can do better, and I would be honored to have your vote on November 4th. So,
Okay. Better hope they don't vote for you on November 4th. All right.
yeah,
All
3rd.
right.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm tired too.
Remember
you
that
go.
date, everyone.
Joe,
Thanks,
closing
Joe.
statement.
Hey, so first things first, I want to thank Michelle. Michelle is a veteran of our United States Army. So Michelle, thank you for your service. I know we seems that we disagree on a lot, but one thing I agree on with you 100% is that I appreciate your commitment to the people of the United States. So thank you very much for that. The community knows me. I'm Joe Smith. I'm your clerk of the circuit court. And for 12 years, I've said those words, and I make sure I don't just say I'm the clerk. I'm your clerk. I serve you. I work for you. And for the last 12 years, we've accomplished some really amazing things. Now, my opponent wants to not tell you those things because she's running against me. And I understand that. That's what the nature of politics. But if you've heard us talk for the last hour or so, you heard someone who focused on you and what they're doing for you. And you heard someone else who focused on me. And that is my opponent's right. But whenever she focuses on me, it tells you one thing. The office is run well. The office is in great hands. Because if there were issues in the office, my opponent would have facts to back them up. Everything that I've said to you today, I can take you to a piece of paper or to a website and show you exactly what we're doing. So let me close by giving you a few numbers. $56 million. That's what we have earned for the taxpayers, in spite of an investment policy that says I have to focus on safety first, then I have to focus on liquidity, and then I have to focus on return on investment. So even with a conservative, I'm aggressively conservative. So even with a conservative portfolio, we've earned you $56 million. And we're first in the state for collections rates, which means that felonies, and second in the state for misdemeanors, mean that those who have broken the law pay and get back into society to be able to become more beneficial and helpful to all of us as they get jobs and can drive to and from work. We have Operation Green Lights for those people who are having a little trouble. So we reduce the rates that they have to pay so that they too can get back to work. The clerk's office is all focused on work. We look out for you and we work for you. For 12 years ago, I wanted this to be the best office in the state. And I'm proud to report to you that where I can't say that we're number one as the best office in the state, I can show you metrics that prove we're in the top 3, 4, or 5. And we've done that together. I lead an amazing team of professionals who have everything from their master's degree to just out of high school. And the best thing I can tell you is if you think that things are so bad at the clerk's office, ask the wonderful professionals who work there. Because all of the professionals who work there are wonderful. It is my privilege to lead them. It is my privilege to work for you. And I would ask that you consider and re-support this campaign. If you want to visit clerksmith.com, I encourage you to do so. But let me last tell you who I'm endorsed by. I'm endorsed by the people you trust. I'm endorsed by the Palm Beach Police Benevolence Association. I am endorsed by the Treasure Coast AFL-CIO of the Palm Beaches. I'm endorsed by the St. Lucie Education Association. I'm endorsed by the Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtor Association. But the most important endorsement I can have in this race is yours. Thank you so much for doing this, Gil, Adam, Larry, Michelle. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak to you today, and I look forward to your endorsement, or at least look forward to reading in the paper what you think very soon.
Okay, very good. I want to thank our candidates, Joe Smith, Michelle Miller, for being here, for answering our questions. I want to thank everybody who watched this from home. If you missed any part of this broadcast, you can go back and rewind it from the beginning. It's on our Facebook page. It's on our YouTube page. You can also check out tcpalm.com/elections. All sorts of news, all sorts of stories, videos, and more there for the upcoming November 3rd elections. And stick with TC Palm as we continue to cover the elections as we count down here. I'm Gil Smart. We'll see you soon.